Hi everyone, I'm Bonnie from the Five Sisters, and today I'm going to show you how I make whole wheat bread. First, years ago, I decided I wanted to make bread for my family, and I made bread from white flour, and I did it by hand. It was a lot of work, and it tasted good, but it wasn't real healthy. So I decided to explore making whole wheat bread using a wheat grinder to grind the wheat. And that's what I will be showing you today. You can get many wheat grinders. That one you can get on Amazon if you want to go that route. When you grind your own wheat, it retains all of it has all of the vitamins, and when you make the bread right away, you are able to capture most of those vitamins in the bread. And so I'm using it's called white wheat. Now, it may sound like it's white flour, but it's not. It has the same nutritional value as hard red wheat. But hard red wheat, I found when I tried to make it for my children, it was very dark and seemed pretty heavy. And the first thing they didn't like was that it was dark. And so I decided to try the hard white wheat, and it was very tasty, and everyone seems to love it even today. And even today, all of my children are raised, and my husband and I eat it, but I make still a big batch of 6, and we freeze it, but then we always have a loaf to give to someone who might need one. So the first thing we're going to do is get warm water. Now, warm water, I found when I was first making it was, how do I tell? And some people just know right away when they do it on their wrist. Well, I'm not that good, so I didn't do that. I did it sometimes, but then I found that I could use a thermometer, which makes it right just every time. So I will get 6 cups of water. Okay. So then I just take a simple thermometer like this and put it in. Then we wait for it to get to hopefully 110.
Now, what's the range that it can be? Does it have to be exactly 110?
No, it can be like 105 to even 115 is okay. So, but my sweet spot is about 110, and that's close enough. Okay. Now we pour the water into, you need to have a mixer that has a dough hook, a good strong dough hook. So I pour the water in, and then I'm going to pour the oil in. And the reason I pour the oil in first, I mean after the water, I spilled there, is the third thing I'm going to put in is the honey. Now, because the oil was in the cup first, the honey will slide right out, and then you don't have a lot of it sitting in there. Okay, see there's a nice, almost a clean cup. So whole wheat is a little bit harder to work with because it has a hard time um, getting to be a gluten, making gluten from it. So to help it along, we just take the honey and the oil and the water and give it a mix for a little bit, just maybe 20 seconds. And it just is incorporated like that. So that is on our way to helping it go ahead and have gluten in it. Okay, then the next thing I'm going to do is put in, this is the wheat flour I had grind earlier today. I'm going to put in 8 cups of flour, whole wheat flour, and 8. All right. I will be putting the rest in later. And now I'm just mixing it for a little bit. And this is all again toward incorporating all of our ingredients. And so this is what it looks like. before I put in the rest of things. So then I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of salt. That doesn't fit. 2 and about a half of yeast. Now you noticed in this bowl I put the yeast and the salt in a separate place because until it's all mixed in, if you put it next to each other, the salt affects the yeast and can hurt the yeast. So next I'm going to be putting in gluten flour. Now gluten flour, I put actually 2 heaping tablespoons. Gluten flour also helps in being able to get a real good gluten going. And then the next thing I'm putting in is, this is called dough enhancer or dough improver. You can get either one on Amazon. This makes, do another, about 2 tablespoons. This makes the bread lighter and fluffier. And also with the gluten flour, it keeps the bread from being so crumbly. Okay, so I think I've got everything in there. Now I'm putting 2 more cups of flour in. And this is so everything won't be too wet and fly out of the bowl. And I'm going to incorporate that a little. Okay, now if we'll do a close-up of this, you'll notice this is very sticky right now. And so we will be gradually adding the rest of the flour. And the flour that I have in this bowl started out to be about 16 cups. And I used 10 cups of wheat berries. So what we'll do is I will get it, I'll incorporate it and then show you what it will look like. Okay, so the dough looks like this. You can see that it's getting, the way you tell if it has enough gluten is when you pull it back like that and it starts to come forward and look stretchy. So the way you tell that you have enough flour is, if you'll notice, the flour is coming away from the sides. Hi, we're back. And now I will test to see this, to see if it has developed enough gluten. And you can see that it's really stretchy, coming back on itself, which is a good sign. And so now I will get it out of the bowl. And I use an oiled board because I don't want to add more flour to it, so that it will stay moist. And you can spray a counter if you want. That's good too. And so here we go. Take my dough hook out. This is good because it's really stretchy. You can see it's challenging to get it out of the bowl sometimes. Don't do that. I use a lot of rubber spatulas. It's more comfortable for me, but you can use any spoon you want. Okay, there we go. So here it is, our big lump of dough, and we are going to divide that into 6 loaf pans. And these loaf pans that I'm using, I like to use stainless steel because they don't rust. And I live in a humid climate where they would be, but they have lasted many years. Okay, I need to move this out of the way for a second. Okay, so you can eyeball what 6 loaves is. I have a scale, so I try to get it close to it. Not always that great at it, but we'll see. Okay, we have 3 there, and 3 here. Now those are not looking very even. You can tell when you lift them, some feel heavier. Okay. So now we have our 6 divided parts. Okay, so I weigh mine, but you can just eyeball them. They don't have to be perfect. And so I weigh mine just on a paper towel that's been sprayed with PAM. Let's see, a second there, like that. And that may turn out to be a little right. So I just kind of adjust. You can adjust along. And see, that's a very heavy one. So I will make that probably not that. I'm kind of aiming for 35 right now. Well, 1.35. Okay, put that one back on. We'll add a little bit more. And there we go. That's close enough. Now all the balls are ready. So the first thing I'm going to do is roll it out a little bit into a rectangle. And you can see that this has developed really good gluten because it's rolling back at you. And then you just take the short end and roll it up. And sometimes you'll see little bubbles start to appearing, so you kind of just push them out as you go and make it smooth. When you get to the end, you're going to pinch it to itself like this. And then the ends, you bring them in like this. And since nobody ever sees the bottom of the loaf, it can look pretty like that, nice and smooth. So there's one. Here's another one. Now we're on the last one, getting it ready to go in the pan. And you can decide which side you want out, which side looks best to you. Sometimes there's a smoother side, sometimes there's not. Okay, so yeah, so this last one has a little more, I can see a little more air bubbles. So you just pinch them as you go. And this bread recipe I like because it only has 1 rising. Most bread recipes have 2. And this is really nice because it does go faster. So the prep time doesn't take very long. I think I will be using proofers today for this bread, and proofers do take longer because it proofs at a lower temperature. But I live in a very humid climate, so our weather is kind of unpredictable. So I use the proofers, and that kind of helps with humid weather. When I lived in a dry climate, I actually heated up the oven to 170 degrees and set it for a minute and then turned the oven off. And then I would put all of these loaves in and let them rise for about 45 minutes in there, then take them out and heat the oven, and then go from there. So these I'm going to put in my proofers over here. And some of today's ovens have proofers, so you might, if you have one, you might be able to figure that one out, and or you can just set them on the counter, but they sometimes takes longer depending on the weather of the day. The proofer has a little bit of water in it that keeps the right humidity in there. The water is just in this little pan right there. And there's many kinds of proofers. You can look them up. And then I put the lid on. And then I've tried all sorts of temperatures. And so here, for me, 77 is about right, but it will take about an hour and a half for it to be the right size to go in the oven for me. Hi again. We're back, and this is how the loaves have risen. They should be about sometimes between 1.5 inches to 2 inches above the pan. This one's a little bit less because I didn't have exactly the same amount in each pan. So now we're going to put them in the oven. Okay, so now they're in the oven, and they will be at 350 degrees for 10 minutes, and then I will be turning the oven down to 325 degrees for 30 minutes. We're back, and the bread has been out for about 10 minutes, and that's long enough for me to be able to get the bread out of the pans, which we'll do right now, and put them on a cooling rack. And then they just tip out like that. And I usually leave them on their sides when they're quite hot. Okay, so here we have them on their cooling racks, and they, in order for you to put them in bags, they would have to cool completely. And I usually use bread bags, but I let them cool all the way before I put them in. But when you have anybody in your house with you that is smelling that bread, they will want a slice of it. So you can go ahead and slice it when it's hot. It's a little harder, but it really does taste good when it's hot. We're back to have the final part of this bread making, and that is the tasting. I'm going to put a little butter on this slice, and you can see it's a nice size for a sandwich, and it's very pliable. Let me show you, it's very soft. Now we'll take a taste. And it's very good.